The son of a UFC legend just made headlines, but not for a knockout victory or a championship belt. Instead, it was for something far darker. A brutal moment caught on video has left fans stunned, a man hospitalized and police investigating. And at the center of it all is Rampage Jackson, the son of Quinton Rampage Jackson, a name once celebrated in the octagon. What happened that night shocked not only the wrestling community, but also anyone who has followed the legacy of one of MMA's most explosive fighters. But this wasn't just a brawl gone wrong. This was an attack so vicious, so unexpected, that it left an unconscious man taking blow after blow, while children and families in the audience looked on in horror. And the fallout? It may forever change how people view both Raja and his father's iconic legacy. It all unfolded at a wrestling event hosted by KnokX Pro Academy in Los Angeles. Rampage Jackson was in the ring, matched up against a wrestler who went by the name Syko Stu. First, it seemed like just another routine event, nothing out of the ordinary. The two men squared up, the crowd cheered, and the fight began. But what happened next turned into one of the ugliest scenes the promotion had ever witnessed. According to eyewitnesses, Syko Stu was knocked out during the match. Normally that would have been the end of it. A KO, the match stopped, the fighters separated. But instead of stepping back, Raja pounced. Video from the event shows him relentlessly pummeling his unconscious opponent, raining down punch after punch while the man lay defenseless on the mat. The audience was horrified. Families had brought their kids to enjoy a night of entertainment, but what they saw instead was a beating so savage that one wrestler described it as barbaric. Douglas Mallow, another performer at the academy, jumped into the ring to try and stop the attack. He physically attempted to drag Raja away from Syko, but Raja's rage didn't stop there. Witnesses say he even tried to launch a double-leg takedown on Douglas, turning on the man who was only trying to protect Syko. What was supposed to be a stage spot in a wrestling show spiraled into something very real, very violent, and very tragic. One moment, the fighters were supposed to be putting on a performance. The next, an unconscious man was taking blow after blow, and the event descended into chaos. And that was only the beginning of the fallout. The chaos finally came to a halt when organizers and wrestlers managed to drag Raja away. But by then, the damage was done. Syko Stu, whose real name is Stuart Smith, lay motionless before being rushed to the hospital. For hours, fans online were left wondering if he had survived the brutal onslaught. Thankfully, reports confirmed that he was awake and stable later that night. Still, the image of him being struck while unconscious was burned into the minds of everyone who witnessed it live and online. Douglas Mallow, the wrestler who stepped in, later told reporters that the whole situation was tragic and barbaric. He explained that what was supposed to be a harmless performance spiraled out of control in an instant. The most disturbing part? Children and families were in the audience, forced to watch a scene that looked less like a wrestling match and more like a street assault. It wasn't just another night of entertainment gone wrong, it was a moment that left fans, wrestlers, and even the organizers themselves shaken. But the shockwaves didn't stop there. What came next was an outpouring of public condemnation. By the next morning, KnokX Pro Entertainment released a statement that pulled no punches. They labeled Raja's outburst as a selfish, irresponsible act of violence and vowed that he would never again be allowed to set foot in one of their matches. In their 17 years of running events, they said nothing like this had ever happened. The company even went as far as to apologize publicly to its fans, admitting that what took place inside their ring was heinous and reprehensible. Their anger wasn't just about Raja's actions, it was about the betrayal of trust. Fans come to wrestling shows expecting a spectacle, yes, but also a safe environment. No one signed up to see an unconscious man get brutally attacked. No one expected children in the audience to witness that kind of violence. As clips of the incident spread online, criticism poured in from every corner of the wrestling world. For KnokX Pro, the message was clear. Rampage Jackson's actions were not only unacceptable, they were unforgivable. But if the wrestling community's condemnation wasn't enough, things escalated even further when law enforcement got involved. When video of the incident hit the internet, it didn't take long before law enforcement was dragged into the picture. The LAPD confirmed they had been called to the scene and were investigating the situation. For Raja, this wasn't just about backlash from fans or getting banned from a wrestling promotion. Now, there were real-world consequences on the line. If police determined his actions crossed into criminal assault, the fallout could go far beyond his reputation. It could mean legal trouble, charges, or even the end of any hopes for a professional career in combat sports. The investigation was officially opened, but while police gathered statements and reviewed footage, another voice entered the conversation, and it was one fans had been waiting for. Quinton "Rampage" Jackson, former UFC light heavyweight champion and one of the sport's most recognizable personalities, quickly issued an apology, but his words were just as revealing as they were regretful. Rampage admitted his son had no business being in a pro wrestling event in the first place. He reminded everyone that Raja is trained as an MMA fighter, not a performer. In other words, while pro wrestling is designed to be entertainment with agreed-upon spots, MMA is about finishing an opponent. To Rampage, it seemed that his son blurred the lines between sport and spectacle with devastating results. He made it clear that he did not condone Raja's actions in any way, and he publicly apologized to the fans, the organizers, and to Syko Stu himself. He even confirmed that Syko was awake and stable after being transported to the hospital. But if Rampage hoped his apology would settle things down, it didn't. Instead, it sparked even more debate. Some fans argued that Raja's instincts as a fighter took over, that he wasn't able to turn it off when the performance ended. Others weren't so forgiving, calling it proof that he didn't belong anywhere near ring wrestling or otherwise. And as the discussion heated up, one thing stood out: Raja himself had yet to say a single word. While the internet exploded with opinions, Rampage Jackson stayed completely silent. No apology, no explanation, nothing. That silence fueled rumors. Was he being told to stay quiet for legal reasons given the LAPD investigation? Or was he simply refusing to take accountability for what happened? Online forums lit up with speculation. Some fans claimed Raja had ruined his fighting future before it even began. Others suggested this might be a sign of deeper issues, pointing to his background as an MMA fighter and questioning whether he could separate the discipline of sport from uncontrolled aggression. And then there was the bigger question: what did this mean for his father's legacy? Rampage Jackson is a UFC legend, a man known for his intensity inside the cage, but now, people were asking if that same ferocity had been passed down to his son in the worst possible way. Rumors swirled that promoters, both in wrestling and MMA, might now steer clear of Raja altogether. After all, what company wants to take a risk on someone already at the center of controversy with police watching closely? Still, not everyone was ready to close the book on him. Some argued that Raja was young, inexperienced, and caught in a situation where adrenaline simply took over. To them, this wasn't the end of his story, it was just the beginning of a very rocky chapter. The brutal beatdown at KnokX Pro wasn't just about one young fighter losing control. It was a moment that raised bigger questions about the crossover between combat sports and entertainment wrestling. Can someone trained to fight for real ever fully step into a staged environment without risking something like this happening again? It also highlighted the risks promotions take when bringing in outside talent. KnokX Pro admitted this was the worst incident in their 17-year history, a history that had never seen anything close to this level of violence. For them, the consequences weren't just about Syko Stu's injuries, but about the trust of their fans, many of whom might think twice before attending another event. And for Rampage Jackson, it showed how quickly a family name can be dragged into controversy. For years, his legacy had been about highlight reel knockouts and unforgettable fights. Now, it was tied, at least in part, to a night his son couldn't control his rage. At the end of the day, the facts are clear. Rampage Jackson brutally attacked an unconscious opponent. Syko Stu was hospitalized, but thankfully survived. The LAPD is investigating. The wrestling community has condemned Raja and banned him for life. Rampage Jackson apologized, but Raja himself has stayed silent. The unanswered questions, however, are what keep this story alive. Was this a one-time lapse in judgment, fueled by adrenaline and immaturity? Or was it a glimpse into a deeper problem that could derail his future before it even begins? For now, the only certainty is that Rampage Jackson has gone from being the son of a UFC legend to the center of a controversy that the world can't stop talking about. And as fans debate online, one question lingers. Is this the tragic start of a career, or the end of one before it even began?